This happened just last year. I'm 40 now, married, 2 boys ages 7 and 5. I work in insurance, which sounds boring because it is boring, but at this point in my life, stability is all I care about. I'm not chasing excitement. I'm chasing the kind of life where my family is safe, the bills are paid, and the future is predictable. A couple of years ago, my dad passed away after a long fight with cancer. He left behind a beach house in Delaware, a place I had actually never visited before. My dad had always rented it out year-round, so there was never an opportunity for us to stay there when I was growing up. It's not a big, flashy house. In fact, it's fairly modest, but its location makes it something special, just a block away from the boardwalk, close enough to hear the faint crash of waves at night. My favorite part of the property is the upstairs back deck, which has a perfect, unobstructed view of the ocean. After my dad passed, my wife and I decided to make the place our own little family getaway. We started going there every summer, sometimes for a full week, other times just for a weekend. It quickly became a tradition. The boys adore it. They'll spend hours running on the beach, riding their bikes along the quiet streets, and exploring the quirky little shops in town. It's one of the few places where they seem to forget about TV or video games entirely. For me, the house feels like more than just a vacation spot. It feels like a gift my dad left behind for us to enjoy, a way for him to still be a part of our lives even though he's gone. This particular story takes place during one of those trips last summer. We had gone down in mid-July, planning a Sunday to Friday stay. I've learned over the years that if you go midweek, the heavy crowds thin out and the beach becomes quieter. That Wednesday evening was perfect. The boys had exhausted themselves with a full day of swimming and building sandcastles, so they went to bed early, around 9:30. My wife and I stayed up on the back deck, a soft ocean breeze drifting over us as we played cards and sipped wine. The air was warm but comfortable, and the sound of the waves in the distance was almost hypnotic. That's when our oldest son, Jordan, came outside. He had this uneasy expression on his face, a look that told me something wasn't right. He said he couldn't sleep because he kept hearing a scratching noise in his room. I figured it was probably just the old house settling, maybe a mouse on the walls, but I didn't want to dismiss him. I told my wife to stay put and followed Jordan downstairs. The boys have separate rooms, so I didn't see any need to disturb our younger son, Scott, who was fast asleep. When we got to Jordan's room, he pointed at the wall near his bed and gestured for me to be quiet. I stood there, listening. At first, I heard nothing, and I was about to tell him it was just his imagination, but after about 20 seconds, I heard it too. Faint but unmistakable, a soft scratching sound. I crouched down and pressed my ear to the wall. It didn't sound like it was coming from the rafters above. It sounded low, near the baseboards, almost like it was coming from inside the wall itself. And then, under the scratching, I heard something else, something that made every muscle in my body tense. Breathing, slow, deep, human breathing. I jerked back from the wall instinctively, blurting out a sharp, "Jesus," before I could stop myself. And then, as if in response, there came a sound I will never forget for as long as I live. The most guttural, furious scream I have ever heard, erupting from somewhere inside that wall. The kind of scream that doesn't just startle you. It reaches inside and sets off every primal alarm your body has. Panic surged through me. I grabbed Jordan by the arm and yanked him out of the room. My mind went into autopilot. I ran down the hall to Scott's room. He was still sleeping peacefully, completely unaware of what was happening. I didn't bother waking him gently. I scooped him up in my arms, turned, and ran. My only thought was to get upstairs to my wife. As we reached the base of the stairs, I shouted for her. Before she could respond, another scream came from behind me, much closer this time. I turned and saw him, a man, filthy and wild-eyed, charging down the hallway straight at us. I nearly tripped trying to get up the stairs while holding Scott and pulling Jordan along, but adrenaline kept me moving. We burst out onto the deck where my wife was, and I slammed the sliding glass door shut just as the man reached it. The impact rattled the glass. For a split second, I thought it might shatter. He clawed at the door like an animal, pounding and shrieking, spitting out words I can't even bring myself to repeat. His hands smeared something across the glass. Dirt, blood, maybe both. I planted myself against the door, my weight the only thing keeping him out. My wife pulled the boys back, covering their ears, trying to shield them from both the noise and the sight. I locked eyes with the intruder. There was nothing human in his expression, only rage and madness. He was relentless, his fists and palms slamming into the glass over and over. Every blow made me think, this is it. This is the one that breaks it. I was ready to fight him the second he got through. But before that could happen, the police arrived. They must have come in through the side of the house, because within seconds, I saw 2 officers inside. One tackled the man from behind, and the other moved in to help restrain him. The instant they pulled him away from the door, my knees nearly buckled. The rest of the night passed in a blur. The officers escorted him out in handcuffs and loaded him into a patrol car. Then they came back inside to hear my account of what happened. I told them everything, from Jordan's first complaint about the scratching to the moment they arrived. The 3 of us then went through the house to figure out where he'd been hiding. It turned out there was a crawl space under the house, something I hadn't even known about. The entrance was hidden under the back porch, practically invisible unless you knew where to look. From there, it connected to a standing crawl space running alongside the foundation. That crawl space had a second, hidden access point, a loose panel inside Jordan's closet. I felt sick. We had been sleeping in that house for days with a stranger literally inside the walls. A few days later, a detective called me with more information. The man had admitted to living in the crawl space for months. He had found it during the off-season when the house was empty and decided to stay. He'd been stealing food from our kitchen and from neighbors' trash bins to survive. That night, he told police he had planned to harm us for intruding on his new home. Hearing those words sent a chill through me unlike anything I've ever felt. We didn't go back to the beach house for the rest of the summer. Not because I thought it would happen again, but because the trauma was still too fresh. I couldn't picture my wife or kids there without reliving that night. They didn't argue. When I finally returned months later, it was with a work crew. We sealed off the crawl space completely, locking the porch entrance and securing the panel in the closet. Only then did I start to feel like the house was truly ours again. This summer, we've been using it as we used to. The boys playing on the beach, my wife and I relaxing on the deck. Things are back to normal, or at least as normal as they can be after something like that. The ocean is still beautiful, the breeze still calming, but every so often, if I'm sitting on that deck alone at night, I'll glance toward the back of the house and think about the months that man spent hidden inside, listening to us, waiting. And even now, I swear, if the wind is quiet enough and the night is still, I sometimes think I can hear the faintest sound of scratching in the walls.